Ethan Brooks had recently moved into a quiet suburban neighborhood outside Portland after accepting a new engineering position. The peaceful streets, tree-lined sidewalks, and friendly neighbors felt completely different from the noisy downtown apartment where he had lived for years. For the first time in a long while, life seemed calm, predictable, and comfortably uncomplicated every single day. Across the fence lived Sophia Carter, a cheerful landscape designer with an incredible talent for creating beautiful gardens. Every morning before work, she watered colorful flowers, trimmed climbing roses, and cared for a small greenhouse behind her house. Ethan often admired how much life and beauty she brought into the neighborhood through simple dedication. One Saturday morning, Ethan stood in his backyard drinking coffee while reading messages on his phone. When he looked up, he noticed Sophia arranging bright flowers around a newly built wooden fountain. The garden looked stunning. Without realizing it, he quietly watched the careful way she transformed ordinary spaces into something remarkably peaceful and welcoming. As Ethan continued observing the colorful garden, Sophia suddenly turned around. Their eyes met immediately across the fence. Ethan awkwardly looked away, embarrassed she had caught him staring. Before he could apologize, Sophia smiled warmly and laughed. "If you want to see, just ask," she called playfully from the other side of the fence. Ethan smiled nervously before apologizing. "I wasn't trying to be rude," he admitted honestly. "Your garden just looks incredible." Sophia waved away his concern. "No apology needed," she replied kindly. "Most people only notice flowers after they're finished. Hardly anyone appreciates the work happening while they're growing." Her kindness immediately eased Ethan's embarrassment completely. She opened the small gate connecting their backyards and invited Ethan inside. Curious, he accepted the invitation. Walking through the garden felt like entering another world. Butterflies fluttered between blooming flowers while gentle wind carried the scent of lavender and jasmine through the warm morning air, surrounding every colorful pathway and carefully arranged flower bed. Sophia explained how every plant required different care, patience, and timing. Some flowers bloomed within weeks, while others took years before revealing their full beauty. Ethan listened carefully, surprised how passionately she spoke about gardening. What seemed like simple landscaping actually reflected creativity, patience, and deep respect for nature's quiet rhythms and steady growth. They spent nearly 2 hours walking through the garden discussing everything from favorite books to childhood memories. Ethan admitted he knew almost nothing about plants. Sophia laughed before handing him a tiny sunflower seed. "Everyone starts somewhere," she said. "Sometimes all it takes is planting one small thing and giving it consistent care." Over the following weeks, Ethan found himself spending more weekends helping Sophia with small gardening projects. He built wooden planter boxes, repaired irrigation hoses, and carried heavy bags of soil whenever needed. In return, Sophia patiently taught him how to care for vegetables, herbs, and colorful flowers, without becoming overwhelmed by unfamiliar techniques. Their growing friendship became the talk of nearby neighbors. Children stopped by to admire butterflies, while elderly couples complimented the blooming gardens stretching across both backyards. Slowly, Ethan realized the fence separating their properties mattered less each passing week because kindness had quietly replaced unfamiliar distance with genuine friendship and mutual trust between neighbors. One rainy afternoon, strong winds damaged several garden beds and knocked over decorative arches supporting climbing roses. Ethan rushed outside immediately after hearing the storm. Without waiting for anyone to ask, he began lifting broken wood, protecting fragile plants, and securing loose equipment before additional damage could spread across Sophia's carefully maintained garden. When Sophia arrived home from work, she stopped in surprise. Ethan stood covered in mud, carefully tying damaged branches upright while protecting delicate flowers beneath waterproof covers. She smiled gratefully before quietly saying, "Looks like someone finally became a real gardener." Ethan laughed. I'm still learning from the best teacher around, he admitted happily. That evening, they shared homemade dinner on the backyard patio while watching the sunset paint the sky golden orange. Sophia thanked Ethan sincerely for protecting the garden during the storm. Ethan smiled gently before replying, "I wasn't just protecting flowers. I was protecting something important to someone who has become important to me." Sophia looked thoughtfully toward him before quietly reaching across the table. "You know," she whispered, "when I caught you watching from your yard that first morning, I thought you were simply curious about the flowers." Ethan smiled. "I was." She laughed softly. "I'm not sure that's the only thing you noticed anymore." Both laughed together, understanding exactly what remained unspoken between them. Their connection had never formed through dramatic romance or grand gestures. Instead, it grew slowly through shared mornings, honest conversations, patient teamwork, and simple acts of kindness repeated consistently over many ordinary days, filled with trust and quiet companionship together. As summer passed into autumn, their gardens became one continuous landscape filled with colorful flowers, vegetables, and winding stone paths connecting both homes. Neighbors often admired how naturally everything blended together. Few realized the garden reflected something even more beautiful, a friendship that had quietly blossomed into genuine love through patience and mutual respect. One afternoon, Ethan found the tiny sunflower he planted months earlier standing taller than the backyard fence. Sophia smiled proudly. "See?" she asked. "Amazing things happen when you simply ask, learn, and stay patient." Ethan nodded thoughtfully while admiring the bright yellow bloom reaching confidently toward the afternoon sunshine above their peaceful neighborhood. Years later, whenever friends asked how they first met, Sophia always laughed before telling the story. "He was spying on my garden," she joked. Ethan immediately protested with a smile. "I was appreciating your hard work." Sophia would gently squeeze his hand before adding, "Either way, I'm glad I told him, if you want to see, just ask."